Mr. Gonzales, I wanted to go over some of your testimony in the Senate. You testified that in September 2005, Senator Domenici called you to complain that Mr. Iglesias was in over his head and lacked the resources to prosecute corruption cases. Is that correct?
I don't know if I said that he, in connection with that particular call, that he lacked the resources. I think what I testified to was the fact that he was concerned that Mr. Iglesias did not have the top talent working on public corruption cases generally. And I think in subsequent conversations that occurred in 2006, I think there were concerns raised by Senator Domenici about whether or not there were sufficient resources available to handle other kinds of cases. Well,
you testified in the Senate that he told you in these conversations that he lacked the resources to handle corruption cases. Are you saying that's not correct today?
What I'm saying is that I recall him saying that with respect to some of the conversations. I don't recall sitting here today that he said that with respect to the first case. The first conversation that I had, what I recall in the first conversation was Senator Domenici indicated he questioned whether or not, does Mr. Iglesias have his best people working on these kinds of very difficult cases?
On corruption cases?
That is my recollection, yes.
So in September of 2005, he talked to you about corruption cases. In January of 2006, you spoke with him again. Again, he complained about Mr. Iglesias and his handling or lack of resources with respect to corruption cases, correct?
My recollection, Congressman, is that the subsequent, I have a recollection that in one of the conversations, which I believe occurred in 2006, one of the two conversations I had, he mentioned generally voter fraud cases. But that's the extent of my recollection.
None of your Senate testimony, in none of your Senate testimony do you indicate that Senator Domenici talked to you about voter fraud, only about corruption cases.
I don't remember being asked specifically about the conversations that I had in 2006, Congressman. Obviously, I mean.
Well, your testimony was that you had 3 conversations.
Yes.
And there were 2 points that Senator Domenici made. First, that he was in over his head.
I didn't mean.
Second, that he lacked resources to prosecute corruption cases.
I didn't mean to imply that those were the only points or things said in those conversations.
So now you recall that he also talked about voter fraud cases.
Yes, in fact, and it's not a recollection that I have just sitting here today, but yes, I have a recollection that the issue of voter fraud cases generally, not specific cases, but generally was raised in one of those 2 conversations in 2006.
And you also said in the Senate that as a result of your conversations with the Senator, you lost confidence in Mr. Iglesias. Is that correct?
Obviously, I was not surprised to see Mr. Iglesias' name recommended to me. The fact that the senior senator...
That's not my question. You testified in the Senate you lost confidence in him as a result of this. Is that correct?
Not having the confidence of the senior senator and the senior leadership in the department was enough for me to lose confidence in Mr. Iglesias.
Okay, so you lost confidence in him after these 3 calls. In July of 2006, after these 3 conversations, you go out to New Mexico. You meet with Mr. Iglesias. You said not a word about losing confidence with him, did you?
I don't recall mentioning that, no, sir.
In fact, you were there to announce you were providing resources not for corruption cases, not for voter fraud cases, but for immigration cases, something you've never said Mr. Senator Domenici raised with you.
I don't recall Senator Domenici raising with me concerns about immigration cases.
So nothing you did or said in July of 2006 during your meeting with Mr. Iglesias is consistent with what you're saying now about your conversations with Senator Domenici.
I don't recall raising these issues with Mr. Iglesias in my visit in 2006.
Now, you were the only one on the phone with Senator Domenici during these 3 calls. Is that correct?
From my end. I don't know whether or not anyone was on the phone as well from his end.
So on your end, you're the only one who would know what the substance of those conversations was?
Again, I was the only one.
In March of this year, when Mr. Rohrkasser, your press spokesman, said that in none of these conversations, that wasn't true, was it?
Well, again, I don't know whether or not Mr. Rohrkasser was talking about specific corruption cases or as a general category. The Senator Domenici did not mention specific corruption cases.
And you don't think that's misleading for him to tell the country, and for you to have a press conference the week after not correct the record, for him to tell the country there was no mention of a corruption case in your conversation?
There was no mention of a corruption case.
Oh, there's mention about corruption cases, but not a corruption case.
I do not think it was misleading, Congressman.
Mr. Gonzales, I worked in the department for 6 years, and I love that department, and it makes me ill to see what's happened to it. And for you to come here today and say there's nothing improper about firing a good prosecutor to make room for someone to pad their resume shows me how little respect you have for the professionals in your charge.
Would the gentleman
And I
yield?
hope you will reconsider your decision. I hope you will resign, because the department is broken, and I don't think you're the one to fix it.